live, pal.
Hey, we're live, pal. Hey, don't take my lines.
Oh, whoa. All
right. We're live, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the A-Side Live Chat here on MMAfighting.com. I am, of course, your host, José Youngs. It has officially been 2 years since I took this podcast over from Sean El-Shadi and Mark Raimondi. We don't have to talk about them, though, because I don't even know where they're working anymore. I think Mark's working at ESPN. I think that's like a bi-weekly newsletter or something, and who knows where Sean is these days. But that's neither here nor there. Thank you, everyone, for 2 years here on the A-Side Live Chat. Joining us this week, he has a little book that just came out, so I had to get him on. Anytime anyone has a very fascinating project on their hands in the world of mixed martial arts or just stuff I want to talk about in general, I like to get them on. But he just happens to be an MMA journalist. He happens to be a fantastic artist. He just wrote a book. We will talk about that, I am sure. At the end of the episode, we're going to give him all the time he wants to plug his work. But joining us is Chris Rini out in New York. Chris, how you doing?
Excellent, man. Thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be here.
Of course, we're going to have you on. You've always DM'd me a handful of your fantastic art. We've chatted. I think our comic book preferences align very well. We've had a couple back and forth on Twitter about some non-superhero books, which I always appreciate when people want to talk about that. I think you were a big fan of Berlin, you're a big fan of Berlin by Jason Luth. You're already high up on my pecking order of comic book fandom. So again, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the A-Side Live Chat.
Thank you so much. Again, yeah, Berlin, killer stuff.
Best comic book on planet Earth. And on the ones and twos, Casey Leydon, how's life in Englewood?
Inglewood's doing good. It's it rhymes. Inglewood is doing good. Yeah, I just made that up.
Inglewood is fair.
And it's all fair in Inglewood air.
Let's give me a haiku. Okay, I was gonna say.
No haikus, not yet. We gotta get the people know, the users.
Sure.
Viewers build up. then we break out the haikus. I just want to show off my awesome Chris Rini art. Look at this. How long ago did I get this, Chris?
2014.
2014. Who can? For the viewers out there, who can name the fighters in this photo? You recognize them? It's based on an Esterlin photo.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the people in the comment sections throw their guesses out. We're not gonna be AK and just start answering the questions.
I'll see if anyone guesses it.
Yeah. Well, that's just a taste of Chris's fantastic work. He has a new book that just came out. We will plug that, of course, down the road. But you guys know the drill. We're here to talk about fist fighting, mixed martial arts, or whatever else you want to talk about. You can leave your comments in the YouTube. We're also live on Twitter and Facebook. So for those of you who have never watched the show because you don't go on YouTube, welcome everyone from the Twitter and Facebook worlds. Leave your comments in the comment section. If you have my cell phone number, you can probably just text me. I know my good buddy Matt Wells has done that a few times. He's caught me off guard. Or you can leave your comments.
You mean MMA Junkies, Matt Wells?
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say I doubt he's gonna do that anymore because now he's working for MMA Junkie, which is again like I think it's like a bi-monthly newsletter that's delivered by like a local, newspaper boy. But anyway, USA Today, what even is that? But you can leave your comments on the site. You can leave them on Twitter. Casey will see them mostly in the YouTube or Twitter or Facebook comments. But without further ado, Casey, what is our first question from our lovely listeners?
All right, first question. Let's go.
Are you broken?
Yeah, a little bit. Man, there's just so many good questions. Where do we start?
We had a lot of questions today, guys. You did a good job. This is like more questions than we've had in a long time. From Four Corner Sports, NY, from Chris's part of the world. Should the UFC go with an interim title for the Bantamweight division, and who should be included in that fight if Aljamain Sterling can't return by the end of the year, like he said? So, yes, of course, we've had the fantastic performance from Rob Font last weekend in the main event. He put on an absolute clinic against Cody Garbrandt, kind of cemented himself as a title contender. The problem is we have TJ Dillashaw versus Corey Sandhagen coming up. A lot of people just assume that is the number one contender fight. And, of course, you need to run it back between Petr Yan and current champ Aljamain Sterling after Petr Yan lost his title at UFC 260, if I remember correctly, by disqualification. So, Chris, do we need interim belts at 135 pounds?
In this case, yes. I want to see Rob Font versus Petr Yan. You know, put the gold back on Yan, put the gold on Font, whatever. I would love to see it again. I would love to see Yan and Aldo like super friction, super hot, super intense. More gold, the better. Both of them will have a fake gold belt. That's what I want.
Casey, do we need interim titles in the most stacked division in MMA?
Yes. I don't know. Yan versus somebody. I'm not sure if it's Font, but I am completely down with interim belt. I'm not one of those people that hate interim belts, actually. I think they're fine as long as you're justified. The problem is the UFC just started throwing them out there for marketing purposes, for promotional reasons, just to sell more tickets. But this is actually a legitimate reason. Sterling is the champion. He's injured for who knows how long. Run it back. I mean, not run it back. Run it with Yan versus whoever. If the timing works out with the winner of Sandhagen Dillashaw, cool. If the timing doesn't work out, then do Font with Yan, I would assume. But I think Font is behind, though, unfortunately for him, the winner of Sandhagen Dillashaw. Is that date been official yet? Is that an official date?
Yeah, it's in June, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so it's right around
June,
the corner.
July, somewhere around there.
So
well,
if the winner of that gets out relatively unscathed, then I would hope, in a couple months, 3 months past that date, we can have an interim belt. That sound fair?
Correct. UFC 259 is also the fight that he lost his title. UFC 260 was Ngannou and Stipe, or Stipe and Ngannou. I will like to say that I saw Aljamain Sterling post a comment, I think it was on ESPN MMA's Instagram, that he was hinting at a fight in November, which if the UFC is back to full capacity would mean that would be the Madison Square Garden card, that's usually their stop for November card. So Aljamain's obviously from New York. If they want to throw Petr Yan on the New York card too, I think obviously there's a big Russian population and a part of New York. I think that's the fight to make. If it is in MSG, it's a good co-main event, and I have no idea what the main event is going to be. But if Aljo's hitting at it, then maybe we hold off, and then Sandhagen the win. Like the problem is Sandhagen Dillashaw probably the number one contender, and that means that sucks for Rob Font because he just has to wait. Rob Font's kind of in that Francis Ngannou area for like a year and a half, where who else is he going to fight? Maybe the loser of Sandhagen Dillashaw, but again, I have no idea.
Cool. We have big news. That is correct.
Cynthia Vance, Travis Brown versus Chad Griggs. Do I get a prize? Where's my prize? Damn it, Chris, send Cynthia Vance.
Long time. Tell you a little secret. Cynthia Vance has a little something in the book. I got a little something from her.
She does.
And Casey, I've been keeping a secret from you, and I guess I'm just gonna have to keep keeping it a secret. You guys are gonna get a little something when I send you. They don't know.
You haven't told them?
Nothing. They don't know nothing.
Wow, I'm really glad I didn't say anything at the beginning of the show. I just assumed they knew, or Casey knew, so I was gonna plug it, but I was like, I'm gonna last second decision. I was like, I'm gonna let Chris talk about it. Man, thank God I'm gonna do that.
I can't tell you. That's right. And Cynthia made the cut. Some people are in there. Who let me down? I'm gonna say this, and I feel bad saying it. Luke Thomas, man. Luke Thomas. I tried getting him in there. I tried. Maybe next time.
All right.
Hold on. I got someone text me. Matthew Wells. Hi, Jose. MMA Junkies, Matthew Wells here. No questions today. Just shout outs to you, EKC, and Chris Rini for being awesome. So thank you, Matt. I hope you enjoy your time at whatever newsletter you joined over at USA Today.
I've been following his art for years. He's good.
Yeah, Matt is fan. He's also a good friend of the show. He's been on a few times. He's also been one of my victims on Between the Links. So
he was a good friend of the show. He was.
He has really good art too. Go buy his art.
All right. Here we go. Next question.
Long one from Muff Daddy. I don't believe this person has ever commented.
Real quick. Hey, Chris. Sorry, real quick. Chris, is your you're a little low, the volume wise? Is there? Can you get your mic closer to your Mouthful.
I can hold it here. Yeah. Is that better?
That is better. Yeah.
That's
You
way
Okay, good.
clear.
I'll
Yeah,
just do this.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay,
crystal
cool.
clear.
All right.
Edson Barboza, close decisions from Muff Daddy on the site. Is there a bigger victim of close split decisions than Edson Barboza? Looking at his split decision losses to Paul Felder and Dan Ige, I personally scored both of them for Barboza. I know Masvidal is known as the king of split decision, but it's just crazy to think about Barboza could be today if those decisions went his way. Since 2016, his only losses outside of those two are Khabib, Gaethje, and Kevin Lee, even has impressive wins over guys currently at the top of the lightweight division in Darius and Hooker. I honestly think he's most underappreciated fighter in the sport. So, Chris, I'll start with you. Off the top of your head, can you think of anyone that has been the victim of split decisions more than Edson Barboza?
100%. Everybody who fought Benson Henderson at his peak, was it Gilbert Melendez, Frankie
Thompson.
Edgar, Josh Thompson? Those are the big three I could think of. Oh, yeah. That dude, he was a murderer. He's like a career derailer.
So Barboza's like the anti Ben Henderson, where he just loses every split decision.
Yeah.
I know good friend of the show, Angela Hill, has been a victim of some rough decisions. I believe Courtney Casey has been the victim of a few very close split decisions. And Dennis Bermudez, I believe at one point lost 3 straight split decisions. Ooh. He could have been on a 3-fight win streak. I believe it was to Darren Elkins, Rick Glenn, and Andre Feely. Those are his 3 losses coming off the Korean Zombie loss. And then he finished it off with a decision over T. Edwards before calling it a career. So, yeah, I think at one point Dennis Bermudez goes, if it goes, he even said, I think after his loss to Feely, goes, if it goes to a decision, I'm probably going to lose by split decision. So Dennis Bermudez has been a victim too.
He did take one though from Max Holloway.
He got a close one against Max. Yeah,
he did. UFC 160, if I remember correctly.
That's kind of worse.
That was on like the early prelims.
Yeah.
Since we're going back to split decision history, didn't Max get didn't he get a lucky one against Leonard Garcia? Was it Leonard Garcia?
I can't remember. I know Leonard Garcia got that gift against what was a decision over Zombie at WEC.
Right.
You can't even count that because that was like fight of the century. So
yeah, that was.
You can't even blame it that one.
Is that even Korean Zombie's best fight? Is that better than the Poirier fight?
I don't think the Poirier fight.
That's my favorite fight ever, though. So
that was the main event, right? Yeah. The Poirier Zombie.
That was, and he got the flying knee into Poirier's own choke at the end.
I think the Korean Zombie Leonard Garcia one was special because it was on the WEC pay-per-view, right? It was in WEC pay-per-view. And it was kind of a mid-card fight. It was like there wasn't no real high expectations for it. Like, Korean Zombie had kind of a name, but we didn't know who he was. And Leonard Garcia was kind of this, mid-level, brawling vet. And it just this kind of fight is like, oh, it looks good on paper. It just turned out to be just one of the best fights ever. So I think that's why that fight kind of sticks out, because it just exceeded expectations just beyond anyone's thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the Sacramento. That was the Sacramento card when Aldo just beat the legs off of Uriah Faber.
That was the non-promotional pay-per-view. Remember, it didn't say WEC anywhere.
Oh, that's really? Right.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was weird. It was weird. I remember I was working with Ariel at the time, and he asked Dana that. It's like, doesn't it say WEC on the cage? Does it say on the gloves? Is that on purpose? He was like, I don't know. So obviously he did it on purpose.
Yeah, but, the posters. I just looked up the poster to remind. It says USC presents World Featherweight Championship, Aldo versus Faber. And then at the bottom in massive letters, it does say WEC, but it's the first thing you see is at the top is UFC presents.
Yeah, and Dana promoted that one. Like, he did the press conference, which I think is pretty much the only time. Yeah, they try to sell WEC as UFC product.
This is the Wikipedia entry for it. UFC presents Aldo versus Faber is also sometimes referred to as WEC 48.
Yeah. Okay, but back to the question. The very last comment: is he the most underappreciated fighter in the sport?
I don't think so. I think he's like.
I think he's up there.
He's got a pretty. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the UFC almost let him go just a little bit ago, and
he had the temerity to ask for money, though.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mentioned this on Twitter a few days ago, talking about. I always thought Cub Swanson was at least in the modern MMA, the best fighter never to even fight for a title for any major organization. And now I actually think it's Barboza. maybe the best fighter
Right,
who's never
right.
fought for a title in any organization, any major organization, maybe like a regional one, but as far as like Strikeforce, PFL, World Series of Fighting, those type of organizations, Cub Swanson and Barboza haven't. So I just think that's not necessarily a category you want to be part of, but I just think Barboza is just like he's one punch away, one simple opinion that wouldn't have rocked any boats. If one judge gave him a fight this way, and no one would have gone, "That's a robbery." No one would have said that. And
Right.
that sucks for Barboza.
Yeah, I hope he can make a title run at 145. I didn't see that coming at all.
There's a lot of fun scraps in 145, specifically because the top of the division doesn't have a ton of wrestlers like that just going to take him off his feet. So I think stylistically there's a ton of exciting matchups at 145. He probably would have fought for the title if he hadn't had that stumbling block against Jamie Varner really early in his career. Because remember, Varner came out of nowhere. Like the UFC didn't bring didn't even. Speaking of WC, Jamie Varner was one of those guys, like, they didn't bring him in from the WC. And they even lost on the regional scene, signed him last minute to fight Edson Barboza, who was still undefeated. This was the first fight after the spinning back kick on Terry Adam. And then he knocks him out in the first round. And, shout out to Jamie Varner, Arizona's finest. But then who has Barboza lost to since then? Cerrone? Ferguson.
That was like
Ferguson.
peak
Kevin Lee,
Cerrone.
Habib.
Like peak Cerrone at 55.
Yeah, that was when Cerrone won like 12 in a row, and then he fought RDA.
One of
my
all-time favorite club and subs.
True story. And then he lost to Michael Johnson, right, on that Brazil card. That was when Michael Johnson was like beating like Poirier, Barboza, Ferguson. Like this was when Michael, like the weirdest career, the absolute weirdest career.
Yeah.
And then he gets mauled by Habib, Kevin Lee. Well, and to be fair with Kevin Lee, I believe Kevin Lee missed weight and he got put on Bambi legs by that spinning back kick, remember? You've seen that a million
100%.
times. And then Justin Gaethje stabbed him in the eye in their fight in Philadelphia.
Is Barboza going to fight for the UFC featherweight title?
Yes.
I hope so.
I
certainly hope so.
I believe he has the skill set to do it. It really depends on, I hate saying this, timing and what the UFC wants. It's not really up to Barboza in a sense. I mean, I think he can win. I think he's good enough, obviously. But does the UFC think they can sell enough tickets, sell enough pay-per-views of Barboza potentially as a champion or in a main event for a title fight? So.
Yeah, going back to timing, if they could go overseas and take him to face Volkanovski on his home turf, like that might be just like a tipping point. But I don't know. I would love to see that. I'd love to see like they're two completely different frames, body shapes. I really love seeing fights like that.
I hope we get to see Holloway Barboza at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know when they're gonna fight. I just hope we get to see it before like they're kind of past their primes. That's all.
I think Barboza Cater would be a scrap too, because I asked Barboza this, like, because Barboza has a ton of finishes that he starts with his boxing. Like everyone talks about his kicks, but I've interviewed a handful of fighters and they said that they were surprised at how good Barboza's like inside boxing was. So Cater versus Barboza would be obviously great. Yair, Zabit, Zombie, Josh Emmett whenever he returns. Like featherweight is awesome. Featherweight is such good fights.
Yeah, I never noticed how good Barboza's boxing was until he fought Anthony Pettis. And I felt like that was the fight where people were like, oh, Pettis finally, he's going to fight a striker. He's going to shine again. And he just ate his lunch with his left foot hook all day.
Barboza is a terrifying human being. One of the 10 most violent fighters in UFC history. I think I said that after his fight against Burgos. Would you agree? Like every fight he's in, whether he wins or loses, it's just violent.
Oh yeah, he's on that all violence team like every year.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think he's on the all violence team, but at the same time, if you listen to him in interviews or just his man, like you have no idea. He's just like seems like the nicest guy. Like it's just wild, and like he was just chop your head off and your legs. What an animal.
I got in an elevator with him when I had to go get my COVID wristband on Friday. it was right after he had weighed in. It was pre-official. It was pre-ceremonial weigh-ins. He did not look great in the elevator. Like, it's obviously like when he's doing media day and getting on the scale, he's like full of energy. But I was like, "You okay, man?" He goes, "Oh man, this is just never gets easy." And he was like moving real slow after his weigh-in. So yeah, if he could keep making the weight though, all power to him. I don't know how much body fat do you think he has when he weighs in.
Negative.
It's got to be single. Yeah, it's got to be at least -5.
Yeah, I don't know how it works,
Right,
but yeah,
right.
it's in the negatives. Have you noticed this?
Mark Cali, why do commenters always say Barboza's gas? His last 2 fights, the commentary has said that in the first round. Maybe commentary bias against some fighters is for another day. Did they say this against Burgos? Because I couldn't hear it in the back because we had it muted.
I think this is
I
more.
didn't
I don't really
notice it.
I don't remember. Although I think when I hear Rogan say the fighter's gassed, I just kind of laugh it off. It's like, oh, there he goes again. So yeah. I think the problem with Barboza though is like, I think I've talked about this before with other fighters like Corey Anderson, extremely good fighters, but for some reason we only remember their big losses. And
Right.
I think even though Barboza's had big wins, he's kind of been on the big loss too. Like. Unfortunately, didn't he survive 15 minutes of Khabib? Did he survive?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Yeah, but he got pretty much 10-4 every round. And it's one of those fights, like, if he would have got, say, submitted in the first 4 minutes, we would have gone, oh, okay, whatever. But for some reason, like, I feel like we have that memory that's just stuck in. And Khabib's, like, talking to... Was that the fight where Khabib was talking to?
That was
I think
Michael
that was
Johnson.
Michael
Johnson.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it had that similar vibe, you know?
Yeah.
I think when fighters are noted for having like a blueprint, it makes people biased against them in terms of their perception. They're like, oh, well, if you can do X, Y, Z, and in Barboza's case, it's pressure and takedown, like people tend to maybe overstate their shortcomings because they're recognizable and quantifiable. Sorry.
I think you sounded smart, Chris.
Here's
Get out of here. Get out of here.
I went to art school.
Wrong
I'm
show
just
for this. Wrong show for that.
Khabib beat Edson Barboza 30-25, 30-25, 30-24.
It wasn't 30-24.
Yeah.
I thought I was making a joke.
he got smacked up, and then he lost to Kevin Lee, and then he beat the tar out of Dan Hooker. That was the one where everyone in the backstage, because I was there. Casey, like, this was Chris. I don't know if you remember. This was in the middle of December, and they asked me, "Do you want to go cover UFC Milwaukee in the middle of December?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And they're like, "Casey and Esther are going to go to Hawaii to cover Bellator." I was like, "Oh, that's a little better." But so I was there in Milwaukee, and Dan Hooker. We all agreed backstage, like, Dan Hooker was way too tough for his own good in that fight because his body, it was like a Burgos thing where his body just shut down after a while.
Yeah, that was a hard one to watch. That really was.
And that was when Dan Hooker was tearing people apart too, so a lot of people picked him to win. And Barboza was on that 2-fight losing streak. Man, lightweight is bananas too.
What? Oh yeah, was that fight at lightweight? Yeah.
Yes.
Barboza was still.
Yeah. Because then he lost to Gaethje and Felder, and then he dropped to 145.
All right.
Wrestling Women from MMG 2K20 on the site. A couple questions. How are the UFC not pushing Carla Esparza? She's an amazing fighter with a backstory with both Joanna Champion and Rose Namajunas. She should definitely get one of these fights next, especially after the Khabib-like performance. Should the UFC start getting behind her more? So that's the first question. We'll answer that before we move on to the second one. Casey, I'll start with you because you've talked about this a few times on various shows on the site. Why is the UFC not pushing Carla Esparza after her big win over Yan Xiaonan last weekend?
I have no effing clue. It's the fight to make. It's the fight with the storyline. She's earned the fight. She deserves the fight. She's, Carla's now kind of, sending those little tweets out there, trying to up her trash talk game because I think that's not her style, but I think that she knows that's what the brass wants. I think they're not pushing Carla because Carla simply doesn't look the part. And that's, not that Rose looks the part, but they've invested in Rose, so we know who Rose is. What do we know about Carla? We know she's a wrestler. We know she's like, she might be the smallest She might be the smallest strawweight in the division. That's insane. I really believe she probably is the smallest strawweight. Maybe her and Loma.
Yeah, Loma's the only one I can think
Maybe
of.
Loma, but they are small strawweights, and I just don't think the UFC wants a fighter like Carla to have the belt. That's why.
Yeah, I hate to agree with you. There's like a real
Really
subtle
hating me?
thing.
Why? No.
No.
I know.
But there's something as subtle as like they won't fight to get her walkout music, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like little things like that is like you can tell like there are people who are on the back burner, and I think that if they would just, like you were saying, there is a narrative there. It's so easy to put this title fight in context. It's so like you can literally close the circle from the inception of the strawweight division, and strawweight is the equivalent of men's lightweight. I mean, it's a Shark Tank, and to get as many wins as she has in a row is notable and just remarkable. And I mean, man, their booking strategy is very transparent. You know, given how heavyweight is going right now, it's not merit based at the moment. Oh. Merit based will make a comeback one day when it's convenient, but it ain't happening today.
I think we were just talking about fighters who pull off or get robbed of split decisions. I don't think it helps Carla's case that she won 3 in a row that I think a lot of people thought she might have lost against Marina, Michelle Waterson, and Alexa Grasso.
I actually thought she lost the Grasso fight, personally.
I don't remember how I scored that fight, but that fight was awesome.
Yes.
But then
it was super good. Yeah,
super good. I scored it for.
It kind of ruined the narrative of a boring Carla fight because that fight was not boring.
No,
so just
But that fight is overshadowed because Jeremy Stevens got stabbed in the eye against Yair.
Oh yeah,
in the main event. So no, like everyone thought Stevens and Rodriguez would be the fight of the night, and then they just gave it was like I feel like people view Grasso Esparza as like the default because like they were robbed in the main event, and then I scored it for Carla against Michelle Waterson, and I scored it for Marina on Fight Island. Was it Fight Island? Yeah. So a couple fights I thought she won, a couple fights I thought she lost, and also her, Rose, and Whaley all have the same manager. So it's not like they're all going to talk trash to one another. It's not like they could build it that way. Like Carla did go about it the way I think a good way of kind of saying like, hey, we have unfinished business. Not like, hey, you suck. I hate your face. Just I beat you once. Yeah, I beat you once. Let's do it again. But the UFC probably wants to give the Zhang Weili rematch. I feel like that's the direction they're leaning.
Man.
Yeah. I just, and even though we talked about, Carla's all her split decisions before her dominant or extremely impressive dominant win over Yan last week. Even though I thought she lost a few of those split decisions, it doesn't really matter because she was, even if I thought she lost, the fact that she was super, super, super competitive with those women. So it's not like it was a robbery, it was just a close fight and, coin flipped heads 3 times in a row for her. That's what it really is. It's not. I don't hold that against Carla at all. And coming into that Yan fight, I was like, well, she has to do something big if she wants the title fight, and she did everything perfect. She did absolutely what I said she had to do to get that title fight. So I don't know what's going on. Yeah. I don't know.
And we don't need every single thing to be completely crystal clear for it to be. Completely valid at this point. Like Eddie Alvarez got his title shot off of like a bunch of like really grindy wall install decisions, and that set up a fantastic knockout of RDA, and then the double championship win for Conor. Like it's just one domino. It doesn't need to be like you don't need to be securing Chinese media rights with every fight just because there are Chinese fighters in the top 5.
The UFC is the PI in China done? Like I know a lot of the fighters have been training there, but is it is it physically built or is it still being built at this time? Because someone posted the stat like the Chinese fighters the last few fights cards have not done well. Like they've been in good fights, but they've constantly been coming out on the the losing side, and I feel like they've all looked really good right away, like early in the fight, and then they've just faded. Obviously, Yan Xiaonan didn't even get an opportunity to even put on offense. Carla just kind of took it to her.
Right.
But the only fighters that Carla has, like Casey said, she's looked competitive in, the only fighters that have absolutely smacked her up have been Tatiana Suarez and Joanna and Jacek. Which will go into the second part of MMG 2K20's question. When Tatiana Suarez destroys gatekeeper Chikagian, you know the UFC will want to book this fight. How do you see her versus Valentina going? Could this be now the toughest test for the bullet? So, yes, for those of you who weren't aware, Tatiana Suarez announced she was medically cleared to return to competition, and she is planning to return at flyweight. I don't care which weight class she returns to. If she did say she felt she'd be more explosive and strong at flyweight, which I would imagine would be the case. She was for a long time one of the taller strawweights in the division. So if was the last time she fought was Valentina beat Jessica. She head kicked Jessica in that Chicago card. So
was
Chris,
that last time Suarez fought when she beat up Esparza?
Yes.
Wow.
No. She beat up Nina.
Nina
she beat up
is his
Nina.
wife.
I'll be a
Yeah,
okay,
Nina
okay.
Nunes. Because because when Nina Nunes just returned against who did she just lose to?
Nina just lost to I forgot.
Mackenzie. When Nina lost to Mackenzie, she had before that her last fight was against Tatiana. So Nina fought, had a baby, and came back before Tatiana Suarez because, of course, she had the hurt neck. You don't want to mess around with a hurt neck, especially with a wrestler, because you can't do those blast double takedowns like she normally does. But maybe Tatiana. I saw someone ask why is Tatiana returning at flyweight? There's clearly a shorter path to the title at flyweight, and if in the back of her mind, she can always go back down to strawweight if her experiment at flyweight doesn't go the way she wants it to. So, Chris. What do you think of Tatiana Suarez's chances at flyweight against the elite competition at 125?
Oh man, I see her steamrolling everybody outside the champ. I don't just by virtue of like the division not being nearly as deep. I'm not gonna shit on an individual fighter, but just from the way Tatiana Suarez absolutely destroyed. A dynamic striker like Grasso and a solid wrestler like Esparza. I really don't see, I don't see her having a lot of trouble getting to the title fight. How do I see her versus Valentina going? I see Valentina testing the limits of Suarez's abilities. Like, maybe Suarez could handle her on the ground, but it's up to her. It's up to Valentina whether or not she allows that to happen. Whether she chooses to engage with her. I think that Valentina's. I would love to see them grapple. I'd love to see them clinch. That's really what I would like to see, because Valentina's takedowns from the clinch, and that's probably one of the most exciting parts of her game. Actually, it's like that transitional space. It's half striking, half grappling, where she kind of dictates where the fight goes, and I really want to see her get tested that way.
Casey, would you favor Tatiana against everyone in the top 15 outside of Valentina?
If she fights this, if the same strawweight Tatiana Suarez shows up and can dominate in the same way she can 10 pounds heavier, I would pick her over Valentina too. I think she's the woman that can take Valentina down, and I don't know if she can finish Valentina, but she can hold her down. Valentina off her back. Of all the aspects of MMA, I feel like Valentina off her back is the least dangerous, and of all the positions, and that's where Suarez can put Valentina. So I would actually pick Suarez over Valentina if she can say like roll through Chikagian. She looks really good at flyweight. She's been out for a long time. I don't know. I personally don't like putting Tatiana Suarez against someone like Chikagian. I love tune-up fights. I love the idea of tune-up fights. I love the idea to remind fans, who she is. And I don't want to – I just don't like fights that high in caliber after such a big break. But that's how the UFC runs. Fighters have big egos. They think they can, face Godzilla, right when they roll out of bed. So they're not going to – they always say, yeah, give me the toughest fight ever. I'm like, no, don't do that. That's silly. But whatever. If Suarez looks good against Shakagian, which I assume that's the booking that makes sense, judging by UFC's past. Yeah, I would pick her over every flyweight in the world, including Valentina.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
I would like to
I
see.
can't stop thinking about that fight.
I would like to see Tatiana versus like, I'm not saying that I would favor these two fighters against her, but like Miranda Maverick and Macy Barber are very strong at 125. Like when Macy Barber fought Alexa Grasso, I picked Alexa Grasso to win just because I thought she was a better boxer and like all around a better fighter. But every time Macy Barber like connected with a punch, like Alexa Grasso like kind of fell back. And she was like a good poker face, and she kept it going. Also, and when she would clinch, she would like shove her away. Like Macy Barber is physically a strong fighter. Miranda Maverick is a physically strong fighter. I want to see Tatiana Suarez, like, can she even take these women down? Because at 115 is one thing, but 125, those are some strong, powerful women in there. And then, man, I don't know. Like Lauren Murphy, JoJo will probably obviously get the winner of that fight, should get the next title shot, rightfully so.
Right.
But yeah, I'm looking at the top 15 right now. I would probably favor Tatiana against almost all these women. And then the champion would be very interesting.
Yeah.
Champion would be real interesting.
Let Andrade chew some people up, lower in the rankings, get Suarez a title shot. If Suarez can take it, I want to see her versus Andrade then.
Did Andrade
Talia Santos is a good fighter too.
Did Andrade say is Andrade going back to strawweight? Do we know, or is she staying at flyweight?
I don't think she said anything.
No,
I think she's down to fight wherever. 115, 125, 135. I'm sure she'll even fight 145 if they ask her to.
Yeah.
Honestly, she should make her. She should. I mean, I wish this UFC was open-minded enough to be like, a person like Jessica Andrade is like action, money fight, no matter where she goes. She should just be like the women's Ronin, just roaming from weight class to weight class, just like wrecking shop, action fights, just,
the utility fighter. Wherever you need a fighter, just call Andrade.
Yeah.
Real quick question. Chris, you mentioned earlier, how the flyweight division isn't necessarily the deepest division.
Right.
How long are we gonna keep saying that for? Because I think we all agree that strawweight, without a doubt, strawweight is the deepest division across the world, women's strawweight. But I honestly think that flyweight is now a better division than bantamweight, at least in the UFC. Yeah. I think so. I mean, we always kind of crap on flyweights in women's flyweights. There's no one, there's just Valentina. But I honestly think the flyweight division is better overall than the bantamweight division right now. I think it will. I think it will be.
I'm looking at it. I might have to agree with you.
I just think it's an old story. I think we've kind of passed that. I understand. At first when the flyweights came about, there weren't that many, but I think we're there now.
I think you make a good point. I am definitely like digging up an old trope. I got to be honest though. Part of it is presentation. I'm no grand objective eye. I can definitely be swayed by the narratives that I hear, and sometimes I even watch fights with just music and no commentary. I have to do that sometimes to just like form my own narrative, and then you hear it back later, and you're like, amazing, I didn't see or hear any of that shit, you got a good point, and I think that part of it is presentation. The way the UFC presents the division, and unfortunately that involves respecting the fighters, acknowledging their accomplishments, acknowledging their personalities. You have to do those things for the audience to become invested in that division outside of the champ.
Jose, is Valentina at flyweight ever headlined the pay-per-view? Is that the only division that's never headlined the pay-per-view?
I don't think strawweight's headlined the pay-per-view.
Joanna never headlined the pay-per-view?
She's headlined like cards, but she's always been like co-main event. I don't think she's ever headlined a pay-per-view. She's headlined against like on those ESPN Plus or like FS1 cards or whatever, but she's never headlined like the strawweight title has never been at the top of a pay-per-view.
I think you're right. Wow,
Not even. I'm thinking like, what about the one where she won it versus Esparza? I'll look it
No,
up.
that was co-main event. The main event was Pettis and RDA.
Yeah, that's coming.
185.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In Dallas.
like Andrade versus Wei Li, that was a
Co-main.
fight night. That was a fight night, so those don't count. Like Valentina's fought like main events and like in Uruguay on fight nights.
Oh, wait, no,
Right.
Strawweight did. Rose and Andrade headlined in the Brazil card.
Okay.
That was because that wasn't original. Like everyone assumed there would be another pay-per-view. I mean, another main event on that. Yeah, and then that just happened to be that was the one she got dropped on her head. That was the main event.
That was pay-per-view.
Yeah, that was the main event. And I think that one always escapes my mind because that same exact day, Pitbull knocked out Michael Chandler and Douglas Lima knocked out MVP. So I was in Chicago for that. So I missed like Cannonier, Silva, Guida, BJ Penn, Rose, Andrade. So that one did headline. And then Rose didn't fight until the rematch, like a year later.
Well, we were talking about presentation, though. And sorry, Chris. And so that goes a lot into why we think less of the women's flyweights because the UFC doesn't even have faith in that division to headline a pay-per-view. The only division of all divisions in the UFC that hasn't headlined pay-per-view. So,
yeah,
there you go.
Even featherweight is headline pay-per-views. Cris Cyborg's headline
multiple times.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Not that I can think of, but Valentina's always been. She was the co-main event in the Chicago card. She wasn't even, and we talk about how usually like the heavier fights always get top billing, unless you're like Conor McGregor or Ronda or whatever. Yeah. They put the strawweight fight above Valentina Andrade flyweight, so they even put 115 above 125 in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. She's gonna need a dance partner, like a rival, someone that can like talk all that greasiness. That'll really sell the fight. Same as like we said that forever. Amanda Nunes should be like a star, but she hasn't had the Chael Sonnen to the Anderson Silva. She hasn't had the Daniel Cormier to the Jon Jones. I think Juliana Pena could be that because she talks a lot of trash. But I don't know if that'll be like a hyper.
That's why Juliana is in that title fight.
I agree.
I mean,
she did everything right.
I think merit alone, it's justifiable, but the fact that she will say, "I am gonna F Amanda Nunes up," like. So I don't think there's a flyweight right now that, because I know the UFC loves that, but like Suarez isn't going like, Valentina Shevchenko, you've taken everything from me. You know, I just don't see that. I think they're actually going to sell that flyweight title fight on merit and like the two best martial artists fighting, which is going to be a tough sell for the UFC.
Yeah.
Because who cares about that? Who cares about the best versus the best? We just want to see beef.
Yeah, man, that's like till 2005, you know.
Take that to PFL. All right.
Yeah, and that I was looking at the rest of that Brazil card too. That felt like a pay-per-view built for the Brazilian market, like specifically for fans in attendance and for people to tune in. So Andrade Rose was a good headliner, but like Aldo Volkanovski was on that card. Anderson Silva Cannonier was on that card. Lil Nog versus Ryan Spann was on that card. So that was a Brazil card, but the main event was still great.
All right. People are telling us to move on. Here we go.
Terrence Leverett, longtime commenter on Twitter. Should a fighter be allowed out of the division ranking if they want to take a step back in competition? Example would be Tony. Second question. Oh, let's answer the first question before we go on the second one. So if a fighter wants a step back, should they be allowed out of the rankings? Casey, I'll start with you because you don't really like the rankings anyway.
So give me an example of that. What does that mean? I'm not.
So if Tony wants, you know how you always say, like for example, Edmen Shahbazyan just lost to Jack Hermanson. You want him to return against some. You and Mike Heck are always like, we want someone ranked way low down, like outside of the top 40. You want a tune-up fight. But Edmen Shahbazyan is clearly a top 15 fighter. If Edmen goes to the UFC and be like, I want to fight someone way back just to get confidence back, but I get you can't book a fight if I'm like the 13th ranked fighter in my division. I can't fight the 16th ranked fighter. Should the UFC then take them out of the rankings in order to make a matchup?
I think they should just make the matchup and keep the ranking. I don't think they need to change any ranking. But yeah, like Suarez, I believe I'm big in tune-up fights. But the thing is, like, no, dude, how many fight nights do we watch? The first fight of the night, Bisping, these guys are real fighters. These guys are tough as up. They fought their way. They're in the UFC now. Like, if you're in the UFC, there's no tune-up fights anyway. So if you fight someone, I mean, Tony fighting any lightweight, the worst lightweight in the UFC, he is still a UFC caliber fighter, and that in itself is always going to be an accomplishment to defeat someone like that. So I don't think you got to take him out of the rankings. I think you just book it. I don't know. As long as the commission, I guess, allows it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that they really do a disservice to fighters, and fighters do a disservice to themselves by remaining. I think there's these greatest of all time level fighters, but then there are elite fighters who stay fighting other elite fighters and end up with these 500 records, for the last maybe quarter of their career. And I think they take an unbelievable amount of damage, and sometimes that feeds into the fan kind of trashing of them. Like they I think of a Carlos Condit, who's his last 15 fights. I bet he's something like 8-7, or something like that. I think about moments where fighters do exactly what you're saying. It's so rare, but whenever it happens, you end up with a vicious highlight, example of there's levels to this. Neil Magny, when he fought that guy Craig White, it was a last minute replacement. He came in, then he just sliced through him like butter. What's a really great one is Chad Mendes versus Cody McKenzie. You're watching the best of the best get in there. He's like, I saw this guy on Tough get hurt with body shots. He goes in there, boom, one to the gut, puts him down. It's okay to do that. If anything, the UFC would benefit from these fighters, number one, getting some low damage wins where they could get back in there again. And on top of that, I hate to say it, but then you come up with this Rocky story, should anything come awry. You end up with a Lando Venata situation where boom, that guy dropped Tony, that guy pushed him to the limit. Now people know his name. The UFC works no, they don't work that hard to get people to know someone's name, let the fighter do it in the cage, We're going to talk about it if it happens.
I'm glad you brought up the Cody McKenzie fight, because that was, if Chad Mendes wanted to get back into the win column in an impressive way, booking him against Cody McKenzie on a massive pay-per-view, because that was Sun and Silva too. Cody McKenzie was coming off that win over Marcus Levesser, which I still remember that fight because that was the Zombie Poirier card. I can't believe he won that fight, but it was again with his crazy guillotine he always did. And then Cody made this big point where he was training with the Diaz brothers and he wouldn't shake Chad Mendez's hands, and he was mean mugging him the whole time. And then Chad Mendes ripped his liver out with a body punch. But I'm looking at rankingmma.com, which, in case I don't know if you've been on the site, they do a top 60 to 75, 50 rankings of all MMA. And they say what promotion they're in and their last 3 fights, and if they have a fight lined up next. So this is kind of what I use for my rankings. The lowest ranked, they do a top 50 lightweights on planet Earth. The number 50th ranked fighter is Alex Martinez. He's 8-0 in PFL. He's the one fighting Anthony Pettis. The lowest ranked lightweight in the UFC is Otman Azatar at 47. That is still not an easy fight if you're trying to go that low.
There. So,
Vince Pichel, Joe Selecki, Scott Holtzman, Nasrat Hasparat, Bobby Green, and Drakkar Klose are all 40 to 50. Those are all really tough fights. Exactly. So you have to go outside of the top 100 to get an easy fight at lightweight in the UFC. Shinya Aoki is the 36th best lightweight in the world.
Dude, Tony Ferguson versus Shinya Aoki would freaking rule. God.
As soon as I said it,
don't get me started.
As soon as I said that, Guram is the 30th ranked lightweight, and Fiziev is 29. You're not going to get an easy fight at 155.
That's what I mean. That's why now, is Tony Ferguson versus Vince Pichel an easier fight than Tony versus, I don't know who, Dan Hooker? Is that they fought? Dan Hooker?
No.
Yeah, Tony versus Dan Hooker is a fight that makes sense, but I don't want to see that for Tony. I'd rather see Tony bite someone like Vince Pichel.
What about Alexander Hernandez? The blueprints. The blueprint's kind of out there. He's 1-2 in his last few fights. He's been smacked up by Dober. He got kind of dominated by Thiago Moises, and then Chris Goodsmacher was coming off that long layoff, and he just kind of ran into Alexander Hernandez. I think that'd be a fun scrap. He's high ranked, but it's a very winnable fight.
I don't mind that because from a promotional standpoint, if Alex Hernandez does beat Tony Ferguson, the UFC has put some promotional push behind Hernandez, so it would it's beneficial for good matchmaking for a promoter. Is if either guy wins or woman wins, if either women or male, oh my god, if either one wins, it's good for a promoter. But yeah, I like that. Alex Hernandez, book it.
Boom.
I'm gonna text Sean Shelby.
Second question from Mr. Levret. Zhang Weili said lost the belt due to booze. Said she lost the belt due to booze. All other times besides Carla versus Joanna, a strawweight champ, lost the belt. It was in enemy territory. Your thoughts? That is very interesting.
What quote is this from? I didn't hear about this.
She said the booze got to her. She wasn't expecting the booze, and then I believe her coach said it kind of threw her off. Like she wasn't expecting to be that big of a heel in Jacksonville. But I could have told you going into Jacksonville, anyone not American, especially a Chinese fighter, is going to get booed. Unfortunately, I tweeted that like, stop booing her. Like, why are you booing her? And everyone got mad at me. I was like, whatever. But yeah, interesting question. I hadn't thought about the strawweight champs tend to lose on enemy territory outside of the Joanna Carla.
You know, I think that's part of the game. It's part of the psychological preparation. And in a way, you have to think about what, like who's a good person who knew where they were going, knew what they were doing, and embraced it as like a Matt Serra versus GSP2. You know, he was like, screw you. I'm coming to your house. I'm going to mess up your boy. You know, and not that she has to come out like that, but at least Serra knew where he was going. He knew the audience that he was going to be in front of, and he like embraced it. And I think that it's part of the game. You know, it's at least worth considering. It's part of your fight prep.
Yeah, for Zhang stuff and the booze. Actually, I kind of blame her manager and her coaches a bit on that one. Her manager especially, just because. I mean, I get Zhang not understanding the culture of MMA fans in Texas. So I understand her being surprised.
Jacksonville. Florida.
Florida.
Same thing.
Oh yeah. Lower Texas.
Yeah, Texas, same thing. So I kind of blame her manager for not preparing her for that. So I get the shock because you know Weili's all like martial arts, and I was like, you suck. Like what?
Well, I'm sure it doesn't help that Rose was saying what she was saying in the lead up. Because Rose is so popular. Rose is one of the more popular women's fighters ever. And if she's saying all this, Chris, I told the story a few times. Like every Lyft driver I had in Jacksonville, I can't say a lot of what they were saying on live podcast, but I was like, God, Florida is just another world to me because like they were just not hiding their disdain for like Asian fighters or Asian Americans in general. And I knew Florida had a certain sway to it,
an edginess.
A certain rep, but the fact that they were just so open about it. Like I had a Lyft driver who's kept telling me his son was in the Navy working on like in like a nuclear submarine, and he was proud of his son because he was going to make China glow. That is what he was saying. I'm just like, wow, that's where we're now. Right. And then so when Weili came out and the booze happened, I'm like, this doesn't surprise me, but it's not great.
No, man, it's rough out there. It's rough out there for anybody who doesn't look like what's supposed to look like an American. You know, let's put it that way.
Yeah,
and
it's
Florida is the only place that me and Esther have really received like upfront, in our face, just open racism. So. It was just like, whoa, you're just saying this in my face. I guess we have to fight now. I don't know how this works.
Man.
Yeah.
But I do agree.
I'm from Florida. I was born
I
in
do agree
Jacksonville.
with you. I do agree with you, Casey, though, that her manager and coach probably should have got her prepared for this.
Yeah, that's all.
Because fighting in Las Vegas is such a, like, especially on fight nights, you get a ton of people not from Las Vegas. So that's kind of where people flock to fights.
Yeah.
And then before that, she fought in China. Where she was clearly the fan favorite, and she got that massive standing ovation when she won. So to go from that to fight of the decade in Las Vegas to then being a bad guy, I get that she might have been caught off guard, but her coach probably should have, especially her manager, probably should have got her prepared a little bit.
That's all.
Yeah.
All right. This is one of those multiple question ones, so we'll try to get through this.
MMA from Azan Zaman on the site.
I like the subject. MMA.
So we're gonna rapid fire these. Next move for Edmen. How can he fix holes in his game while staying at the top? Chris, if you could book a fight for Edmen Shahbazyan, who you booking him against?
Man, I am booking him against somebody who's on like tough. Somebody who is like greener than green. You put him on a prelim. Get the spotlight off of him. I think the amount of press and the spotlight is as detrimental to him as the booking itself. Get him in SUG. You know what I mean? Get him a grappling event. Let him rebuild. How can he do it while staying at the top? He can't. All right. I'm being brutally honest here. Like let the man breathe.
Casey?
Edmen versus.
I got a few ideas, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I just found the name. Someone like Kyle Dawkins, around that level. Kyle Dawkins, who just lost to Phil Haas. Someone, that Kyle Dawkins, clearly UFC caliber, but I'll be shocked if he fights for a middleweight title anytime soon. So Edmen versus Kyle Dawkins, that around that level. And how can he fix holes in his game? He needs just lower level competition so he can execute what he's working on in the gym, in the cage. That's all. Unfortunately, fighting guys like Hermanson and Brunson, you got your butt kicked by Brunson. That sucks. So they basically made a lateral move, one step down, like maybe a fighter 1 degree less good than Brunson with Jack Hermanson. And Jack Hermanson on the right day is better than Brunson probably. So it's not like he got to step down after getting his butt kicked by Brunson. So Kyle Dawkins would be a step back, and that's what Edmen needs. At the age of 23. At the age of 23, he cannot take another just horrible beating. His next fight would be probably maybe the most crucial fight of his UFC career.
Yeah.
I would like to see him face either Carl Roberson, striker who just coming off an L to Brandon Allen, and remember the heel hook, and Carl Roberson is more of a striker anyway.
Yeah.
Tom Breeze, who's coming off a loss. I know he has a fight coming up, so maybe the winner of Arroyo Breeze, or Sam Alvey, who's
I was thinking Sam Alvey too, actually.
Yeah. Sam Alvey is a guy. He can be an exciting, but he's one of those fighters. He's in exciting fights, or he gets finished spectacularly. I know he's on a bit of a losing streak where he's had 2 losses and a draw in his last 3 fights, but his last fight against Julian Marquez was fight of the night. So if the UFC wants to use him before parting ways and they give him Edmen Shahbazyan, then I think that'd be a good fight too. And
he's a counterpuncher. He's going to give Shahbazyan the space to showcase the skills he has instead of closing the distance and getting him on his back.
I agree.
Boom. Or Ben Rothwell won via go-go choke, but Bruce said it was via guillotine. Isn't the ref Mark Smith's duty to get the method right?
Not really.
I mean, not really.
He could have just said winner by submission. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
The difference in go-go and guillotine is just whatever simple, whatever the grip is. I'm not even sure what Ben had, what he's gripping under that guillotine. So, no big deal.
And most importantly, what is Jon Jones giving birth to? I'm sure you guys saw the tweets. I believe Jon Jones just announced he was joining. Richard Schaefer was going to be his representing him moving forward. So maybe that's what he was talking about. For those of you who don't know who Richard Schaefer is, he's the former CEO of Golden Boy Boxing. He promoted like Ortiz and Mayweather and all that kind of stuff. So he's been in the game for quite a long time, specifically the combat sports world. So, but you know how Dana White likes dealing with these boxing agents and managers. He just has glowing things to say about Holly Holm's management.
Yeah. Poor Lenny. You know what? Good. Let Jon Jones, honestly, be a heel to the UFC, not to the fans. Dig your heels in and I don't know, man. That dude's got to make a stand for what his legacy is going to be. And if it can't, his fighting is speaks for itself. I would love to see somebody, I don't know, I got my own opinion about fighter unions and whatnot like that, but I'll save it for another day.
There you go. Another question from Four Corner Sports NYC or NY. Jon Jones saying he's comfortable if he doesn't fight until 2022. Is this smart of him or not? And if Francis is still champ by the time Jon returns, how big of an interest will the fight look? With Francis potentially having 2 title defenses? Well, the more title defenses a fighter racks up is going to make him make the fight a bigger deal. I said it for a long time before the last Tony Khabib fight fell apart. I thought all of that history leading up to that fight just made that fight a bigger deal, because the first few times they were supposed to fight, neither one was champion. Neither one had fought for a belt yet. Neither one had an interim title. And then few times they were supposed to fight, I believe they were going to be the co-main event of Tyron Woodley, Stephen Thompson, before that fight fell apart. And then obviously the New York City thing, and then Khabib and Conor just made Khabib a bigger global star. I think if they had fought in Brooklyn, going through all that chaos just led to a bigger fight. Maybe this is the same thing, but Chris, obviously we all agree the more title defenses Francis racks up before he fights Jon Jones, it's going to be a bigger deal. But is it smart for Jon Jones to wait until 2022 to fight again?
Man, that he is rolling the dice. I don't trust Jon Jones to manage his life outside the cage. So you know what? If I was gonna gamble, I'd be like, no, it's not. It's not smart. The greatest moments in his career have come when he has had a busy schedule, and I have trouble believing that that a man can change profoundly, especially when they're comfortable. He has if you're not worried about food in your belly, if you're not worried about a roof over your head, then you have to find that internal motivation. And unless he has something truly profound that he's working on, that he believes in, that motivates him, I have serious doubts. I think the deck is stacked against him. I think the UFC is too big with a schedule that is too overwhelming. Yes, he could come back, he could fight, and the more Francis wins, you're right. That'd be better for Jon, the more Francis wins. But his track record speaks for himself. For itself. I don't trust him on his own. He needs he needs an opponent. He needs another man across the cage to keep him straight.
Casey?
I don't believe it when Jon Jones saying that he's comfortable not fighting to 2022. I don't believe that. But you know what though? If once it gets in your brain that you are getting screwed by whoever's paying you, once it gets in your brain that, oh, I can fight, but I don't like this guy I'm fighting for. I'm making him money, and I should be making the money. Once that gets in your brain, unless Jon Jones gets a good deal that he's happy with, it is a smart move, because he won't be able to. He'd be fighting out of vindictiveness. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm fighting for. He's fighting for $1 million, but he goes, I should be getting $10 million.
Right.
That's 10 times less than what he believes he should be making. Imagine, you doing your job, whatever you do, and you sell a piece of art for $100. Like, but normally it sells for $1,000. I feel kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, it is hard.
It gets into, because are you gonna make this? Are you gonna make for Chris for? Are you gonna make the same piece of art with the same passion for $100 than for what you think it's worth? You can. I mean, you could, but
I think
it's difficult. And that's why I think Jon's in that situation. To me,
I think from the outside looking in, because I have a few friends in the art scene back home in Rhode Island here, I can just tell that when they start, and you ask that question, Casey, would you put the same care in as if you got $10 or $100? Early in their career, they 100% would.
Yeah.
But after a while, you're like, all right, I put the time in. I need to get paid what I'm worth. Totally. So Jon Jones is at this point right now. Like, early in his career, he probably would have fought for $1 million. But now that he's Dana White calls you the greatest of all time. How many times? That's all Dana White says. Then he wants to get paid like it. So I think that's.
But the man is flawed.
That's the problem. He's not like this perfect person. Yeah.
I'm in a vacuum. You're right. In context, man, the deck is stacked against
Is Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones the biggest fight in any division the UFC can make right now? That makes sense. I'm not saying like, oh, Conor versus this guy. Like that makes sense.
Makes sense. If the UFC promotes it properly, yes. If promoted properly, yes. Like a prime time, Francis's story with John's story, John's ups and downs, his problems outside of the cage, just obviously it's the biggest fight the UFC maybe could ever, just based on merit alone. Like you have an amazing fight based on merit. That fight's even bigger if Francis say gets one more win, defends it, beats Stipe, beats Lewis. Obviously, then it'd be even bigger. But yeah, if promoted properly. But then I say that, then John's gonna be like, okay, then I should get the most money that a title fight's ever gotten for a challenger,
Right.
But he ain't getting that. So
no, he ain't.
This I think the worst case scenario for the UFC is, I don't know, Cyril Gane ends up with the title before Jon Jones returns.
Yeah, just some not random guy, but yeah, it's just the
you know,
heavyweight
not
title
someone that's going to move the needle.
Yeah,
I think Cyril Gane versus Francis is a big fight over in France because they used to be teammates and there was they split unceremoniously and everything. But like this just reminds me, like, do you remember when the Bellator did like that Dynamite like one night tournament? And then like the winner of the co-main event would fight the winner. The main event was Liam McGarry, Tito Ortiz. And then the co-main event was the finals, and like the winners would then fight each other. And I think Francis Carmont got like a bye or got added in like last minute.
Francis Carmont, because King Mo was supposed to fight it, but King Mo won his fight, but then he got injured in his fight and he couldn't fight the second time.
Right.
That's why Francis.
So
that's why
I was like, and like the main event was McGarry Ortiz. I'm like, so you're telling me we could have the Bellator title between Tito Ortiz and Francis Carmont could be for the Bellator light heavyweight title? It's just like worst case. It's like that. Like this is just like worst case scenario. Like what would it be? Is just like this guy coming out. But then we saw like everyone wanted Overeem Fedor in the Strikeforce Grand Prix,
right? And
then this alternate named Daniel Cormier hopped in and just became a star. So it works both ways.
Yeah, and some chubby Brazilian took out Fedor in the tournament, right? was that part of,
Yeah, and Josh Barnett got dropped on his head in the main event, and Bigfoot got knocked dead. And what a great tournament! What
a great tournament!
We went a little over time, Casey. What we got any more?
Yeah.
Or we want to allow Chris to plug his book.
Yeah, what can I plug his book? Okay, we got good questions. Wait, hold on, real quick. I just like this question.
McGregor, just a regular fighter from Terrence Gordett on the site. To MMA fighting. Do you agree with Kamaru Usman's statement about Conor McGregor being just a regular fighter? You say that Conor now is just a regular fighter with a lot of money and a lot of hype and a lot of recognition. Well, they're prize fighters. And if you take those last three things that Tristan Gordett just said, Conor is not just a regular fighter because he brings more eyeballs than anyone in the history of MMA. So if you're if you're saying I am a prize fighter, make as much money as possible, Conor's the guy. If Kamaru Usman wants to test himself against high-level martial artists, Conor's probably further down the chain. But Chris, is Conor now, quote, just a regular fighter?
I think Kamaru is talking about what happens once the cage door closes.
Yeah.
And in that regard, I'll cut Conor some slack and just say he's not even in the cage often enough for people to make a valid assessment, because watching him fight Poirier, I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, every single exchange, So in a way, I would say no. I'm still pretty much captivated by the fighter. I'm still on the hook. I think that he might believe himself to be Mr. 2016, and when in 2021, we're now at a point where he's been, off the pedestal longer than he's been on the pedestal. It's really, he's a different man now. The dynamism is there, it was wonderful watching him stun Poirier with a right hand instead of a left, but it's obvious that his head is not completely there. that was part of his whole shtick at the end, saying, I was planning on fighting Pacquiao later, so I was only boxing. And that, that's a guy admitting that his head's not in the game. And, the fighter, he might be there, but he's not all there right now.
Casey?
When you say regular fighter, yeah, I'm assuming that just means when that door shuts and it's just you're looking at that guy. Yeah, I mean, I don't believe Conor's. I believe he's top 10, but right now he's booked against the number 1 guy in the world, which is I think the best lightweight in the world is Dustin Poirier, not Charles the Bronx, unfortunately. So regardless of who he's a regular fighter, that regular fighter is still getting matched up with the best fighter in the world. So that takes a lot of, that doesn't make him a regular fighter in that sense. But Kamaru Usman. I don't know what Kamaru Usman is trying to say. I don't know what he's trying to sell here. I'm not sure.
I'm not even sure what it means.
Yeah, sorry.
He was on. I can't remember if it was with Brett or Ariel. It was an ESPN interview, and obviously Conor gets brought up. And I think obviously, like Charles Oliveira just did an interview with their own Guilherme Cruz as well. And Guilherme asked him, like, who would you rather fight, Conor or Dustin? And he said, I don't really care. They're both good fighters, but obviously Conor brings more attention. So maybe Usman's talking about, like, will it bring more attention? 100%. But is he more dangerous than Leon Edwards? Probably not. Like, Leon Edwards is a high caliber fighter right now. So I agree with both of what you're saying. Like, in terms of martial arts competition, Conor's mystique isn't there anymore but I say that, and Conor has this uncanny ability to, like, he got smashed by Khabib. Like, he got smashed. And Conor spun it that Khabib is a coward for shooting him. He spun it that Dustin Poirier didn't meet him in the center and kicked his legs like a coward. Like, yep. And his fans are like, yeah, he's right. I'm like, you guys are dumb, man. Like, Conor has that ability to just, like, I say the mystique is gone, but then it's not. When he fights again, people are going to be tuning in.
I love that. I love what you said because, look at Dustin. He kicked my legs. What a jerk. And then when he loses to Mayweather, Mayweather, I could have kicked him. I could have kicked his legs if I wanted to, but we're just punching each other. It's like
what
it's
we're
amazing.
saying
Conor's amazing how he can spin losses. That's actually
100%. It's unbelievable. Like, I have never seen a fighter like it more, where he could get one shot KO'd in 3 seconds. He's like, if I had 7 seconds, I would have won. And then the question's there. Like, what if he didn't get caught? But what we can all agree is
18 minutes available.
Exactly. A lot of people think Conor's living the Rocky 3 lifestyle. The money just got to him. The training's not there.
It's almost as though his verbal acumen is like an undoing. Like, he's able to convince people. He's able to convince himself. Like, you get people like Vitor Belfort. He's like, I would have won if he didn't kick me in the face. Like, their rationalizations are so ham-fisted that you're like, go on with yourself. He's almost too good.
The Phoenix Suns would have won if time didn't run out.
Exactly.
That's pretty much what people say. So what we need now is to complete. What we need now is to complete the Rocky 3 saga, and Conor's just going to have to go train with Nate Diaz in Stockton in an old school dungeon like Rocky did 100%. With Apollo. And they're going to have to run on the beach and then hug at the end.
We ever going to see that? Nate and Conor? Like,
hell no.
No.
Hell no.
I kind of need it, but
hell no. They have to fight a third time first. The most stacked division in the sport, Andy Burton. 2 contenders emerged last weekend from arguably the most stacked men and women's divisions. Which one was more impressive? Dern's sub over Ansarov. Granted, Nina had a long layoff. Or Marina's win over Michelle. And who would you pick to... Well, this is a lot of questions. So we're going to...
Confused.
And who would you pick to win that fight? So, all right, Chris, what's more impressive? Real rapid fire. What is more impressive? Dern's win over Ansarov or Marina's win over Michelle Watterson?
Oh, Marina's over Watterson. Not to denigrate Dern, it was a stunning performance, but sometimes when you win exactly the way you're expected to win against somebody who's been off on a layoff, it takes a tiny bit of the shine off. And Marina, I mean, I got shades of like Diaz Daly with the way she was laying into Watterson against the cage. I just felt like it was a level of dynamism that I'm looking for.
It was also last minute, and it was over 5 rounds. So
Exactly.
Main event on a last minute fight for both ladies. And Michelle was in there. She didn't get like smashed in at any time. But Casey, what's more impressive for you?
I say it's pretty much equal, honestly, because Dern was so dominant over Nina Nunes. So I was incredibly impressed by Dern's progression as a fighter, because her coming to the UFC, I thought she's mid tier, but she has without a doubt improved. So I'll give her all the credit in the world. I don't know if she'll win the title, but she will fight for a title eventually. And I love Marina Rodriguez. Oh, sorry. Marina Rodriguez versus Dern. I want to see it.
What's next for Mackenzie's going to be fighting. Oh yeah, that fight's going to happen if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, what's next for Claudia Gadelha, Michelle Waterson, and Tecia Torres? I think that was what Dana White had said. Dern. Marina.
Oh. So
what's next for these three ladies? And I will say, interestingly enough, Angela Hills fought two of these ladies and has been tied to. She's fought all three. If I remember correctly, right?
She's lost to all three.
And two of them were splits, and it's Claudia and Michelle. Yeah. And Tecia Torres was like what?
Long time ago.
Third fight ever in her career. And they were supposed to rematch before it fell apart, remember? Yeah. So what's next for all three of these ladies? Casey, I'll start with you.
All of them have to, I don't know. They're in a bad position. They're kind of like, I think all three of them are kind of past their athletic prime, but they're still very good. Top 10, top 15 at worst strawweights. So I feel the UFC will use these three ladies to build up the next generation of strawweights. That's basically it.
Chris?
I really want to see Gadelha fight. I'd like to see Angela Hill rematch any of these people. That's really what should happen. I don't even want to. I'm a big fan of hers. I love watching Gadelha and Waterson fight anyone, anytime. I'd like to see Gadelha and Waterson fight, actually. That and, I don't know, Torres, I feel like I thought she was kind of like having second thoughts about continuing her career, but maybe I'm misremembering
She was taking some time off. Because she was supposed to fight Angela, and then I think Angela got COVID, and then it came out. So yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, now that you mention it, oddly enough, Claudia Gadelha has never fought Michelle Waterson.
Yeah. Oh, and a quick shout out to the original, kind of the OG Invicta FC crew: Gadelha, Waterson, Torres, and then Carla Esparza and Rose Namajunas maybe fighting for the title. That same like early Invicta FC crew are like still running the division. So man, props to Shannon Knapp for finding that talent way before UFC did, and recognizing it and giving him a platform. Because I just realized that, man. I realized, oh god, I saw all these ladies fight like in a small warehouse or wherever it was in Kansas City years ago. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Like anytime the UFC absorbs an organization, which they kind of did for Invicta, Strikeforce, Prime, WEC, other people can spot talent. There's never been a time that they absorb another organization and those people don't go on to win championships and become elite top 5 fighters. It happens every time.
Tecia Torres is the only one of these three ladies coming off a win too. So I think I don't know who she's gonna fight next. She did beat Michelle Waterson. These ladies have all fought each other outside of Michelle and Claudia. So maybe match those ladies up, and then Tecia can get someone, maybe Yan Xiaonan. She hasn't fought her yet.
Yeah.
Fun scrap.
There's a lot of good matchups. For
all right. Outside of Edgar, Cruz, and Aldo, who do you believe is most likely to get another title shot? Aldo. Of these three names first, which one gets it first? Aldo, because he's the one that's being active.
I would say, honestly, Cruz, because he seems to have leverage with the UFC in terms of being in their favor. I think Aldo, the beating he took against Yan was too brutal. And I think Jan's going to be champ again.
I will go Cruz.
Yeah, it's one of those two. I think Aldo's just been really active, and that Yan fight was awesome until Yan just took over.
Super competitive. It was competitive till it wasn't.
Competitive and high level.
Yeah.
I think I just want to see activity from Cruz, because I don't want if Frankie Edgar picks up 2 more wins before Dominic Cruz returns. I think that's what we want to see. Anyway, what's next for Merab? The Merab Dvalishvili, who everyone apparently has deemed the future champion of this division.
What's next for Merab is a bunch of fighters who are above him saying, "I don't want to fight him."
Yeah.
He's essentially the 135 Islam Makhachev. Incredibly good. He'll grind you and just rustle the heck out of you for 15 minutes, maybe finish you. And yeah, it's gonna be a hell of a training camp, a hell of a fight to beat that man. And I don't.
You want to hear the most saddest, realistic thing? He's gonna smash Marlon Moraes. That's what's gonna happen. I'm looking at the top 10. I'm like, who is gonna take a fight against this guy? And Marlon has the, he's got the losing.
Losses,
he's on a skid. He might have lost some leverage with the UFC matchmakers. In the top 10, I can't picture anybody wanting to fight him and having ability to say no.
I think Jimmy Rivera might be one too. He's in that
that's
position.
Another good choice.
It's gonna be one of those, like what Chris says. It's gonna be one of those fighters that they just can't say no. It's like when Jacare fought Muniz in Houston. He admits he's like, "Well, I'm like, why are you taking this fight?" He goes, I'm at a point in my career I can't say no because I'm on a losing streak. So it's gonna be something like that.
Oof.
Yeah, and that's the problem with Merab. So say Merab beats Jimmy Rivera or whatever, then the other fighters are gonna be like, oh, he just beat some guy. Like Rivera's no good. He's coming off a losing streak. Beat someone off a winning streak. But he's just never gonna get an opportunity to fight someone above him on a win streak, unless the UFC can sweeten the pot for the other fighter. But they rarely do. Yeah. They rarely do that. So, bad news for Merab. I don't know.
Jimmy Rivera has only lost to Marlon Moraes, former title contender, former World Series of Fighting champ, and that was a 30-second head kick.
Yeah.
Aljamain Sterling, current champ. Petr Yan, former champ. Pedro Munoz, one of the stalwarts of the division, has beaten Faber, Almeida, Dodson, Stamen, Alcantara. Beat Munoz too, so he's 1-1 on that. So I went over Jimmy Rivera. I still kind of hold in high regard, but obviously it's not the same Jimmy Rivera.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is the same Jimmy Rivera. I just don't think the fans.
No, that's what I'm saying. Recognition in terms of the fans. Yeah. Because freaking Jimmy Rivera is a fantastic fighter.
He is.
Yeah. He had real momentum up until the Moraes fight.
Yeah.
Maybe the winner of Grant and Cheeto Vera, just because I think that would be a fun fight, but that they're a little too low ranked.
Yeah.
I just think that's because Cheeto Vera is a guy that's going to talk a lot of trash.
Once again, Rob will have to fight someone behind him in line, most likely.
Sure.
So that's just
right.
He just always gets stuck. Okay, cool. One last one before we talk about Chris Rini's new book.
Matt Bradbury. So far, who is the best female/male fighter of the year so far? Chris, best female and male fighter.
I don't know.
Oh my God, you're killing me.
Yeah, I know.
Here.
This is tough.
I follow all these things. I'm like, Jesus. Okay, I'm gonna go with Francis, fighter of the year, so far, just because he, everybody makes the joke 6 months of sprawl training. Oh, if this guy would just do that, then there would be a world beater. That dude did everything he needed to do. He sprawled. He threw a head kick. He knocked people out with like technical punches. That's it. That's it. That's what does it for me. He beat the guy who beat him. He beat him by performing exceptionally different than any of his previous wins. Just transformative, both in terms of performance, technical ability, and overcoming a past loss that did psychological damage to him.
Female fighter.
Man, it's gonna be Amanda Nunes later. It's Valentina Shevchenko. I have not seen like a wavering in her at all. I think she's doing the Mighty Mouse thing. We're starting to take her for granted, and I think it needs to be acknowledged. She is still exceptional.
Her dominance is boring.
Yes. Like Rose, like the terror in her. Like I wonder if she's going to perform. Like it's a different kind of exhalation when she wins, but Valentina, just cold steel.
When Valentina loses a round, you're like, oh my God.
She
must suck now.
My God.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Casey, male and female fighter of the year.
Valentina, male fighter. It's easy to pick champs, but I'm gonna go Yuri. I'm gonna go Yuri. I'm gonna go non-champ. A guy who's just kind of making his statement. That's why.
I'm a big storyline guy. I'm gonna pick Rose for female because she made history as the first female fighter to recapture a UFC title. And then male fighter Usman. Won and answered every question we had against Masvidal. He's also the only champ that's 2-0. Stopped Gilbert Burns and stopped Jorge Masvidal. The story with Gilbert Burns is former training partner, and he has his number. And the story with Masvidal is Masvidal with a full training camp, and Usman answered both of them. He also said if Leon Edwards beats Nate Diaz, it's hard to argue against him, and I think that is very refreshing in a champion to fight contenders. Knockout of the year, Chris.
Oh, Yuri versus Reyes, 100%. You know, that's like that. You know, the joke. You want to see a dead body? You know. I mean, I was actually really upset and terrified when I saw that, but that was it. That was the one.
Casey.
I'm not gonna go with Yuri. I'm actually gonna go with Usman's knockout of Masvidal.
Yeah.
I think there's a 1A and 1B, to be honest.
I think it's Usman. Was Sandhagen Edgar this year?
Yeah, sure.
Was that into last year?
That's this year.
Just because that was walk-offs are fun, and it was and it was so nonchalant about it. And even Dominic Cruz, who's former champ, is like title shot, boom, give it to him. And then I think Francis isn't up for me because Francis does that against everyone, so it wasn't shocking to me. Submission of the year, Casey.
Oh, go back to me. I know this one. Hold on. I wrote it down.
Chris, submission of the year.
You know, I like Dern's armbar on Nina Nunes. I liked watching her work for it. I liked watching her like methodically be in that tangle of limbs. You know, from an artistic perspective, that's like one of my favorite things to focus on right now.
Muniz Jacare. Is it Muniz? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Muniz.
Muniz Jacare. Yeah, just the level of competition.
That's why
level of competition, all that matters.
For me, it's Fluffy Hernandez and Vieira. Then Vieira's like has more gold medals than anyone, and he got submitted by Alex Hernandez, who doesn't even watch jiu-jitsu, and he was 30-1 underdog.
If Jacare had taken 10 minutes of a beatdown and then got submitted, I wouldn't pick Muniz, but that's why I don't put Fluffy Hernandez, because I put that was a credit to who does he beat? Vieira. Vieira was just
Rodolfo
dead
Vieira
by the time he choked him. Just from the beating he took. So, but that's a good choice too.
Woodley, Luque tapping Woodley's a good one too. I think with the Darce, and Aspinall submitting Arlovsky, I think is an underrated one. Because even Arlovsky was just like, damn it, at the end. Performance of the year so far, Casey.
Performance of the year. Oh man.
Mine's Max Holloway. Pitched a perfect game. That fight was bananas.
Okay.
It's him or Poirier for me. That was bananas.
Yeah. No. Max, by far, just the one-sided masterpiece.
Oh,
Casey.
Completely overlooked submission of the year. Way overlooked. Nunes over Megan Anderson. Absolutely, it's incredible submission that was completely overlooked because of how dominant we see Amanda Nunes as. So, performance of the year, man. I don't know. You have to throw some at me. I can't. I'm kind of going in blank. I'm trying to think of
Holloway, Poirier, because these are perfect games. I think Rose's game plan against Weili was spot on. Because I talked about how if you watch the Rose, the Weili Joanna fight, every time she would dock it. Go ahead.
Performance of the year. No, actually, I'm gonna go Shevchenko over Andrade.
Oof.
I'm gonna go that because I picked Andrade. I thought Andrade was the woman that could be a force against Valentina, but I was wrong. So I was incredibly shocked at how bad she made Andrade look. So unless Andrade had the worst performance of her career, came in with food poisoning or something, if that was best Andrade, I still don't understand how Valentina just dominated her so easily. So yeah, I'll pick that one.
Could I ask you guys a favor? And I feel terrible asking this. After this, could we plug? Because I have to leave and pick my kid up from school.
Oh, yeah.
Hit it. Do it now. Fight of the year.
Awesome.
Real rapid fire fight of the year.
Oh, Oliveira Chandler.
Boom.
Just all energy, back and forth swings. What, 5 minutes, 17 seconds of all action, all tension.
I agree. Casey agrees too.
All the way, yep.
Chris, the floor is yours. Plug it and make your big announcement and surprise everyone with what you got to say.
Everyone, thank you so much for having me on. My name is Chris Rini. I publish a book every year. I address the tragic hamster wheel that is the MMA schedule. What I did was I picked a couple of bookends, January 1st to December 31st. I watch all the fights. I draw all the fights. I hired 2 amazing artists, Gorilla the Bear, a.k.a. Adam Nelson, Edward Cow, famous for illustrating Sean Al-Shadi's long-form journalism pieces on fighters. I had 7 writers writing essays, Chuck Mindenhall, Sean Al-Shadi, Fernanda Prates, Julie Kedzie, Eugene S. Robinson, Josh Rosenblatt, and Schwan Humes. This is a 100-page book of art and essays chronicling the year 2020 in MMA. You can get the book at chrisrini.com, CHRISRINI. Catch me over at Twitter at Rini MMA. This is a book series. This is volume 2. I'll be putting this out every year until I die. This is my legacy. It's a great piece of artwork. The essays are amazing. The artists that worked with me are fantastic. I can't even think of what else to say because I gotta go ride my bike 4 miles before my kid, doesn't get stranded out in the middle of the street. I miss anything? I'm gonna get. You want to know where Sean Al-Shadi's been? He's been working with me, you SOB.
Yeah, How about that? Casey, I've read the book. Chris gave me a little sneak preview of it. It is fantastic. Chris, are you gonna tell Casey the big surprise? Or do you want him to find out the old-fashioned way?
I said, give me your address. I'm gonna mail it to you. You find out the surprise when you get it.
I can't believe no one's told him. So I'm going to say kudos. Go find his work. Go get his book. Chris, you'll be back 100%. Maybe you'll shoot.
Every on fight night, go to Twitter, find me. I sketch all the fights as they're happening like a cage fighting court reporter. It's a lot of fun. We make some jokes. Do what we got to do.
MMA's got themselves a regular Joe Sacco on our hands. But that is about as big a compliment as I can give a human being. So anyway, go find his work, Rini MMA. You'll find all his artwork. Casey, have fun at Englewood. We got more interviews to work on. Chris, you will 100% be back on the show, and maybe even you'll be on Mike's Between the Links moving forward.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Enjoy. Go pick up your son. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.